Evening.
Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Pariyantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Saha Veeryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Mavedishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Okay, so we are now on topic number 39. So I will chant it out. You can repeat. Ishwarasya ayam samashtihi.
Ishwarasya samashtihi.
Akhila karanatvat karna shariram.
Akhila karna shariram.
Ananda prachuratvat.
Ananda prachuratvat.
Koshavad achadakatvat.
Koshavad achadakatvat.
Cha anandamaya koshaha.
Anandamaya koshaha.
Sarvo paramatvat sushuptihi.
Sarvo paramatvat sushuptihi.
Ata eva sthula sukshma prapancha layasthanamiti cha uchyate.
Ata eva sthula sukshma prapancha layasthanamiti cha uchyate.
So, if you remember in the earlier couple of topics, we talked about Ishvara, the RC, and we had seen different names for this RC. Now here, Sadananda is saying that the RM, which is what? Which is the Samashti Ajnanam, which is the macro ignorance, also called Maya, which is the Upadhi of Ishvara. So the Samashti Ajnanam, the RM, also called Maya, has different names. And he gives the different names. He says, Ishwarasya iyam samashtihi. Samashti means the Samashti Ajnanam, the macro ignorance. Samashti here has to be taken as ignorance. So the macro ignorance, iyam samashtihi, belonging to whom? Ishwarasya, which is the Upadhi for Ishvara, Akhila Karanatvat, being the Karanam for the entire universe. Akhila Karanatvat. So Akhila Jagat Karanatvat, being the cause for the entire universe, it has got a name called Karana Shariram. So this we should remember. The Samashti Karana Shariram is basically Samashti Ajnanam, also called Ishvaraha. Okay, also called Maya, also called Prakriti. And he says, it's got another name also. What is that? Anandamaya Koshaha. So this is again Samashti. We are talking about the macro only. We are talking about Ishvara. So remember, every word has to be connected to macro only, to Samashti only, because all these words are also there in Vyashti also, in micro also. So here just constantly remember that we are talking about the Samashti, the macro. So Anandamaya Koshaha is the Anandamaya Koshaha at the Samashti level of Ishvara. And this Samashti Karna Shariram, why is it called Anandamaya Koshaha? So it uses an adjective. Ananda Prachuratvat. Prachuram means to be full of, to be pervaded by, to be saturated. So Ananda Prachura, because of being saturated with Ananda. That is why it is called Ananda Maya Koshaha. So the Anandamaya part of it is explained. Why? Because it is saturated with Ananda. Why is it called Koshaha? So he says Koshavat Achadakatvat. So that word Koshavadachadakatvat has to be broken into Koshavat plus Achadakatvat. Achada means to cover. So achadakatvad means because it covers koshavat, like a sheet. It covers like a sheet. What does it cover? This kosha seemingly covers what? It is the real nature of Ishvara. It covers. Ishvara Sarupam, it covers. And that is why it is called Koshaha. Now here one point needs to be noted. When you say it is covering, remember that covering is the concealment of Ishvara's nature. And here you should be very carefully understanding that this concealment is not effective for Ishvara. So we are using the word covering from the Vyashti point of view, from the Vyavaharika point of view, because concealment is effective for a jiva. And because the concealment is effective for jiva, all of us find it easy to relate to Saguna Ishvara, but not to Nirguna Ishvara, who is actually none other than myself. That's how the concealment is effective. That's why Koshaha. From the jiva's point of view, the real nature of the jiva as Nirguna Ishvara is covered up. Achada is covered. And therefore, Achadakatvat, just as the container covers the real nature of Ishvara, that is why it is called Koshaha. So that's two, right? And now another name is given. So Shuptihi. Another name is Samashti Ajnanam. It is actually the Sushupti of Ishvara. Again, very careful because Sushupti is also used for the Jiva. And since we are talking about Samashti Ajnanam, the macro Ajnanam, it has to be used as Sushupti is Bhagavan Sushupti, Ishvara Sushupti, which is called what? What is the name? Another name for Ishvara Sushupti, very, very familiar name.
Pralayam.
Pralayam. Okay. And therefore, it's called Ishvara Sushupti. Why is it called that? Sarva Uparamatvat. What is Uparama? Tattva Bodha. What is Uparama? Uparati.
Swadharma
Swadharma
Anushtana.
Withdrawal from the senses.
Withdrawal from the senses.
Exactly. Withdrawal, right? Now, in that particular definition, we took it as withdrawal from the senses. But here, Sarva Uparama. All the activities of the entire Srishti, the entire creation are withdrawn, which means what? The whole creation is withdrawn. Withdrawn into what? Into Ishvara, into the Samashti Karana Shariram. Shukti. That's why it's called Sushupti. Other name is Pralayam. Note that if it was Vyashti Ajnanam, if it was the individual's Ajnanam, the individual sleep, it is also called Sushupti. What is the parallel that we are to draw over here? Just as in Bhagavan's Sushupti, as in Ishvara Sushupti, the entire Srishti is withdrawn, which is to say, the entire activities of Ishvara are withdrawn. Similarly, in the Jiva's Sushupti, what is withdrawn? All his activities are withdrawn. Okay, so that is why the micro Sushupti, that is the Vyashti Ajnanam, the micro level Sushupti, also activities are withdrawn, but since it is micro level, the focus is on the Jiva, and the Jiva's activities are withdrawn, while at the macro level, at the Samashti level, the focus is on Ishvara, and Ishvara's activities are withdrawn, and that's why it is called Sushupti for Bhagavan. And that Sushupti is called Pralayam also. And he gives one more name, Atha Eva, because of that only. Because of what only? Because of the fact that all the activities are being withdrawn, Sthula Sukshma Prapanchaha Laya Sthanam iti Uchyate. That Karana Shariram Uchyate is called Laya Sthanam, is called the resolution ground. The Laya Sthanam, the resolution ground for what? Sthula Sukshma Prapanchaha, for the gross and subtle universe, because it is the resolution ground of these two universes. Therefore, it is called Layasthana. So different names have been given. What are those names? One is Samashti Ajnanam, Karana Shariram, Anandamaya Kosaha, then Sushuptihi, and then Layasthana. These are the various names for the RM. What is the RM? Samashti Ajnanam, the macro level ignorance, which we call Maya. So you can see that very detailed analysis is being done of what in Tattva Bodha we saw at a very superficial level. That here more and more details are there. And as somebody mentioned last time in the class only, it is almost like a bhashya, very detailed explanation. Now we look at topic number 40. So I will read it out and you can repeat. Yatha vanasya vyashthabhiprayena
यथा मनस्य
येन
व्यष्ट्यभिप्रायेण
vriksha iti anekatva vyapadesho
वृक्षाति अनेकत्वव्यपदेशो
यथा वा जलाशयस्य
यथा जलाशयस्य
व्यष्ठ्यभिप्रायेण जलानीति
व्यष्ट्यभिप्रायेण जलानीति
तथा अज्ञानस्य व्यष्ठ्यभिप्रायेण
तथा अज्ञानस्य व्यष्ट्यभिप्रायेण
तद् अनेकत्वव्यपदेशः
तदेकत्वव्यपदेशः
Now he gives a quote from Rig Veda, Indro Mayavihi Pururupa Iyate.
इन्द्रो
Ityadi Shrutehe. So for those who are interested, I have given the Rig Veda reference 6:47:18. Okay. Now we come to Vyashti Ajnana. What was the last thing? Samashti Ajnana. The macro level ignorance was being talked about. Now he has come to, Sadananda has come to micro level ignorance. Vyashti Ajnana, the Jiva Ajnana. Now, if you look at the nature of the Ajnana, they are the same. Whether it is Samashti or Vyashti, Ajnanam does the same job. And he is giving an example. Why they are not different? Why is it that Vyashti and Samashti Ajnanam are not different? So, Yatha Vanasya Vyashti Abhiprayena Vriksha iti Anekatva Vyapadeshaha. So, when you look at a bunch of trees, which is called one forest, what are you looking at? You're looking at trees only, right? You're looking at many trees. Even though you are saying one forest, the trees are many. But if you change your vision and you say that, okay, I am not looking at a forest, I am looking at the individual trees, then you will say there are many trees. So, yatha vanasya vyashti abhiprayena. You are looking at the forest, vanam, and you are saying one forest. Right? But vriksha iti, when you change your vision and look at the trees, anekatva vyapadeshaha, you are going to say many trees. So even though what is in your field of vision has not changed, from one angle you call it one forest. From another angle you call it many trees. So that is one example. Then he gives another example. Yathava Jalashayasya Veshtibhiprayena Jalani iti. So Jalaha. So another example is given, the ocean and waves. When you look at all the waves, but view the whole thing as one, then you say it is one ocean. But if you forget about the ocean and focus only on the waves, then you will see many waves. Same entity is in front of your eyes. From one viewpoint, it is one ocean. From another viewpoint, it is many waves. So the difference is what? It's called drishti bhedaha. Only a difference in perspective. Drishti bhedaha. Not vastu bhedaha. There is no change, there is no difference in the entity itself. In the substance, there is no difference. Because in the first case, the substance was what? Many trees. In the second case, substance was many waves. The difference is in perspective. From one perspective, it is one forest or one ocean. From the other perspective, it is many trees and many waves. So he says, having given the example, he says, Tatha. In the same manner, Ajnanasya Veshti Abhiprayena Tad Anekatva Vyapadeshaha. In the same manner, from the point of view of macro point of view, from the universal point of view, that Ajnanam, that ignorance is called Samashti Ajnanam. But the same ignorance, when you look at from the individual point of view, it is referred to as what? Vyashti Ajnanam, as many ignorances, many jivas. Each jiva being avidya. So there are many avidyas, many different points of ignorance. That those are the jivas. All put together, it is Samashti Ajnanam. So one point which you have to extract from here is what? That there is no separate thing called Maya. If you take the ignorance of an individual as avidya, you put the avidya of all the living beings together, and then what happens? So totality is called Maya or Samashti Ajnanam. The total of all Vyashti Ajnanam is called Samashti Ajnanam, just as the total number of trees is called the forest. And he says, this is not what I am saying only. This is what also Rig Veda says. Indro Maya Bhi Pururupa Iyate. So you should note that Maya Bhi here is plural. Sanskrit grammar, it is Bahuvachanam. Akaranda Tritiya. Normally, Maya is referred to as Maya Asti. Whenever we talk about Maya, it's an individual, Maya Asti, Ekavachanam, right? It is a single number. But here, Rig Veda says Maya Bihi, that is plural. So therefore, he is saying that appears as many. Puru Rupa Iyate. It appears in the forms of many jivas. Puru Rupa means many forms, many jivas. Iyate means appears as, attains as. Puru Rupa Iyate. That same Samashti Ajnanam, it appears in the form of many jivas. So he is giving the Shruti backup. The Shruti quote, he says, Rig Veda also backs my stand. That this is the understanding that should be had. So wherever Maya is used in singular, it refers to what? Samashti Ajnana. Wherever Maya is used in the plural sense, it refers to Vyashti Ajnana. All very deep, very subtle topics. I hope you are enjoying or at least understanding.
Acharya, I have a question.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So the Samashti Ajnanam, which is predominantly sattvic and is not contaminated by Tamoguna,
Yeah.
at the Veshti level, how does the Avarna Shakti come into play of the Tamoguna?
Vyashti level, see, Samashti level, it is predominantly Sattva, and that is called Ishvara. At Vyashti level, at the Jiva level, it is predominantly Rajas. It is not predominantly Sattva. So Jiva is predominantly Rajas. And predominantly Tamas is what? Remember,
The plant and animal.
no, Jiva means plant also. Predominantly Tamas will be Jagat. When you take the three entities, Ishvara, Jiva, Jagat, that is the relationship. Predominantly Sattva Maya is Ishvara. Predominantly Rajas Maya is, Rajas Avidya is Jiva. Predominantly Tamas Maya is Jagat. Okay. These are all concepts which will emerge as we go on. And that is why I said this is not just like Tattva. You can't just come from class to class. You have to revise it and parallelly revise Tattva also. Then only it makes real sense. Okay. Now we go to topic number 41.
Acharya,
Yeah, John, tell me.
sorry. So in the last Friday, we studied that that for Easwara, Sattva Guna is dominant
Yes.
in Easwaras, in the Samashti point of view of Maya, and we mentioned that this Sattvic Maya is predominant Maya is necessary for Easwara to create, because knowledge is necessary to create things. And we mentioned that because of the Maya of Easwara, this in the Samashti level is Sattvic predominant, the Tamas and Rajagunas are kind of
Subservient.
yes. So the Tamas, the Vikshepa Shakti power of Rajas, that is back up by Rajas, and the Avarna Shakti, that is back up by Tamas, are not functional in Ishvara. So
you can't say that Vikshepa is totally not functional, because Vikshepa is required for creation. But before you create, you need Sattva to plan the creation. You have to have a plan first, how I'm going to create. And then you need Rajas. Tamas is purely Avarna. Avarna is not functional at all, because Ishvara never forgets that he is Ishvara.
Okay, so in Ishvara, the only Shaktis that are functional is the Sattva, Guna,
and
Shakti,
Rajas.
and the Rajas.
And Rajas.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, so we look at topic number 41. Atra vyastha samastha. Vyapitvena vyashti samashtita vyapadeshaha. So he has used the terms Vyashti and Samashti in the previous verse, and therefore he says, I need to explain, because I don't want you to have your own idea of what those words mean. And that is what a good teacher always strives to communicate. He wants the student to understand in the way he is explaining. The student should not be making an understanding on the basis of his own, mistaken words or understanding or whatever. Student's understanding and the teacher's understanding should align. And therefore he says, Atra. Now here, Atra, Vyashti Samasthita Vyapadeshaha. The words Vyashti and Samashti are being used. And what do they represent? What do the word Vyashti and Samashti represent? They represent basically the Ajnanam, the ignorance. Vyashti represents at a micro level. Samashti represents at a macro level. So when he says Atra Vyashti Samashtita Vyapadeshaha, he means the words Vyashti and the word Samashti are being used in a particular sense. And what are they based on? Vyashti is based on Vyastha Vyapitvena. Samashti is based on Samasta Vyapitvena. So that look at the sentence, that Vyapitvena has to be taken twice. Atra Vyastha Vyapitvena, Atra Samastha Vyapitvena. What does Vyapitvena means? Vyapakam. Vyapakam means pervasion, pervading. And therefore when he says Vyashti and Samashti, both the words are used on the basis of Vyapakam, Vyapitvena, based on the extent to which there is a spatial pervasion. To give an example, when you use the term tree, what is the spatial coverage? It is limited, right? The pervasion of space around the tree, or the tree pervading the space, that space is limited. to what? 10 feet by 3 feet, whatever. If it's very big, 340 feet by 50 feet. But when you use the word forest, there is a larger spatial coverage because it consists of many, many kilometers. And that's what he means by Vyastha Vyapitvena. Individual usage of the term Vyashti is based on the fact that the spatial space occupied by the Vyashti object is much smaller. And when you use the word Samashti, it is based on the fact that the spatial coverage, the space occupied by the Samashti, the forest or the ocean, has got a much larger area. Very simple. I mean, there's no complication here. He's simply trying to explain, saying that Vyashti Samashti are basically based on the pervasion, the extent to which space is pervading. Vyashti means smaller, Samashti means the totality of all Vyashti. Okay. Now we go to topic number 42. Iyam Vyashtihi
Iyam Vyashtihi
Nikristopadhitaya
Nikrishtopadhitaya
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 Malina Sattva Pradhana
Malina
Pradhana.
All very, very important definitions which you should get straight into your intellect. Iyam Vyashtihi, this Vyashti, which means this micro level ignorance, Vyashti Ajnanam, Nikrishta Upadhitaya, having a inferior Upadhi. Okay, because it is an inferior Upadhi, it's got an inferior nature. Why so? Malina Sattva Pradhanaha. So Sattvam is not top predominant. Malina Sattva. Malina means contaminated. So that is of inferior nature because that Ajnanam has Sattva Guna, of course, is there, but it is contaminated by Rajas and Tamas. In Ishvara, remember, the Sattva is Shuddha Sattva, pure Sattva. Not 100%, but predominantly Sattva. When we say all this, we should remember what? Whenever we say Ajnanam, that Ajnanam is not different from Maya. And therefore, all the three gunas are there. Okay. Just remember that whenever we say Ajnanam, Vyashti, Samashti, it is Maya only, it is Ajnanam only, it is Prakriti only, and therefore, all the three gunas are present. So in Ishvara, he said, the Sattva is Shuddha Sattvam, predominantly Sattvic. Here he is saying Vyashti, this individual Ajnanam, is Malina Sattva Pradhana, predominantly overpowered. Sattva Guna has been overpowered, contaminated by Rajas and Tamas. So Sattva Guna which has been contaminated by Rajas and Tamas, it is called Malina Sattva, contaminated Sattva. Okay. All, ideas which were not there in Tattva Bodha, but which occasionally we have been talking about in Bhagavad Gita classes. Now topic number 43. Etad upahitam chaitanyam
Etad upahitam chaitanyam
alpanyatva anishvaratvadi
Alpanyat anishvaratvadi
alpagyatva anishvaratvadi
anishvaratvadi
gunakam prajna iti uchyata
Gunakam pragyakita
eka ajnanavabhasakatvat.
Eka ajnanavabhasakatvat.
Okay. So we said that Vyashti has inferior attributes, inferior gunas, and Samashti, the macro, has superior attributes. So some question can arise. If Vyashti has all inferior attributes, when you total the whole Vyashti, because you said earlier, what did you say? That Samasta Vyasta. You said there is no difference. It's only the way of looking. When you look at many Vyashtis together, you can either say many Vyashtis or you can say one Samashti. That is what we said in the previous verse. So, Brahaspati student, Brahaspati, when we say Brahaspati, what does it mean? When we say Brahaspati student.
Intelligent. Very intelligent.
When you use the word Brahaspati, it is used in a sarcastic manner. I mean, at least in the normal. Yeah, this fellow is a Brahaspati. Means he thinks he's a Brahaspati, but actually he is not. So this one Brahaspati student, one smart student, he says, you said, Kesadananda, that Vyashti has inferior attributes only. How can you say now that Samashti has got superior attributes? Because you yourself said that when you look at many Vyashtis, it is called Samashti. So should not the total of all Vyashtis be a total of many, many inferior attributes? Should it not be a hugely inferior attribute, which would give you Mahasamsara? Vyashti gives Samsara, right? Because it is inferior. And totality of Vyashti, how can the total of many inferior attributes belong or come about, result in a superior attribute? How can Samashti have a superior attribute when you are simply saying that it is only a manner of looking? Many trees and one forest. Total of all inferior attributes mathematically should be what? Many, many inferior attributes. So Shastram says no. Shastram says that the total of all these Vyashtis cannot be a simple addition of Vyashtis. It is not just a simple arithmetical summation. The totality gains attributes which are completely different from the Vyashti. The Samashti, which is actually total of all Vyashtis, it has a characteristic which is different from the individual Vyashtis. Right? Now, what is the example? If you take a person, he is a collection of individual cells. And each individual cell has got a particular characteristic. But the totality of the cells, which is the individual, what is that? He's got a different character from the individual cells. We can also see that in, individual beings who are generally peaceful, when they form a mob, that mob becomes violent. So the totality, the Samashti, has got a character which is different from the Vyashti. So we also call it synergy in English. The totality being more than the individual. You can also talk about the your voting process. In a democracy, you vote. You as an individual have got only one vote, which has got limited power. It does not give us any special attribute. But put the totality of all the individual voters together and you get a leader, right? That leader is elected on the basis of many individual votes. None of those individual votes have got any special power. But the leader acquires a power which no individual voter has. You're seeing? There are many examples you can give. For example, those of you who know maths or little elementary maths, what is the definition of a point? What is a point defined as? Okay, no math students. A point is yes, tell me.
1,000?
Sorry?
1,000?
No. Point is just a point. Take a pencil and make a point. The point is defined as having a dimension of 0. That is the mathematical definition. Point has 0 dimension. You know what I mean, the point, right? You take a pencil and touch the paper, there's a point. That point is supposed to have 0 dimension. And what is the line defined as? As a summation of many points, consisting of many points. So if you take both the, examples, both the definitions together, each individual point has 0 dimension, and there are many individual points in a line. If you add them all, what should we get? 0 only, right? 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 is 0 only. But the line has a very specific dimension. That is synergy. Right, that's the example. How can the addition of 0 dimensions give rise to some positive dimension? That is the question. In the same way, he is saying that etad upahitam chaitanyam, this pure consciousness. Upahitam is what? That which is the object of the upadhi. Right? So etad upahitam, this pure consciousness, chaitanyam. So this consciousness which has this limited vyashti upadhi, etad upahitam, has got this very limited vyashti upadhi, which is lending its attributes to the chaitanyam. That pure consciousness, alpagyatva anishwaratvadi gunakam, has got now a guna. See, this pure consciousness is limitless. If there is no guna, there is nirguna. But because of association with the upadhi, what has happened? Alpagnyatva. It has become distorted and is appearing as if it possesses limited knowledge. Alpagnyanam. Limited knowledge. And anishwaratvadi. So, anishwaratvadi means having limited power. Okay. So basically anishwaratva is powerless. Ishvara is powerful. Jnanam is there, alpajnanam is there. So alpajnanam, alpajnatva means having limited knowledge and powerless. These are the gunas, gunakam, endowed with. So the same nirguna, all powerful, all pervading consciousness, because of association with upadhi, now appears limited knowledge and limited power. What is that called? First of all, before getting the answer, which ajnana are you talking about now? Vyashti ajnana.
Vyashti.
The jiva.
Vyashti ajnanam is otherwise called Vyashti Karana Shariram. Jiva's Karana Shariram. Okay. So here we are talking about that. Etad upahitam chaitanyam means this pure consciousness which has got this upadhi of the individual Karana Shariram. It appears distorted by limited knowledge and it seems to be powerless and it has got a name. Prajna. Prajna ityuchata. So actually it should be it yuchate because Sandhi rule, the A is dropped. So prajna iti uchyate is called prajna. Here I must again and again I bring this point. Prajna is different from prajna. Okay, prajna is different from prajna. We must know that. Why must we know that?
Different meanings.
Prajna means what? Knowledge, wisdom. Right? Why is it called prajna? Because the prajna comes from the word prayena agnya, specially ignorant or totally ignorant, which is diametrically opposed to prajna, which is knowledge. Therefore, prajna is totally ignorant. What is called prajna? The individual karana shariram, vyashti ajnanam. And why is it called prajna? Eka ajnana avabhasakatvat. Because this chaitanyam is the illuminator. It reveals what? Eka ajnanam. What is eka ajnana supposed to mean? One ajnanam. So which means that ekaha is vyashti. Eka ajnanam. Ajnanam here is karana shariram. So that prajna is the consciousness which reveals the individual vyashti karana shariram. So the prajna is what? It is the RC and the RM is the individual karana shariram. That is why it's called prajna, because it reveals eka ajnana avavasikatva. It reveals one karana shariram. Okay. Now we go to topic number 44. These are all connected, so we have to do it together. Asya prajnatvam
Asya
spashthopaditaya
Aditaya
anati prakashakatvat. Okay. So we said that this consciousness associated with the individual karna shariram is called prajna because it is almost totally ignorant. Remember, I said prajna is prayena ajna, almost totally ignorant. The almost word is very important. Prayena, very important. Because almost totally ignorant means what? Not totally ignorant. Some little knowledge is there. Now remember, when we say vyashti karna shariram, individual karna shariram, what is the avastha?
Sushupti.
Sushupti avastha.
Sushupti.
Right. So in Sushupti avastha, there are two pieces of knowledge. What are they? Ajnana vishaya prakashaha. Ajnanam. You know that you don't know anything. I know that I don't know anything. What is that? Is that knowledge or is it not knowledge?
It is knowledge.
It is knowledge. It is knowledge of ignorance, knowledge of ajnana, right? So ajnana is there. That is one piece of knowledge. And because you know that you have the ajnanam, when you get up, you are able to say, I didn't have any thoughts. I knew nothing. I was ignorant of anything. When you say that, it means that you knew that you were ignorant, knew that there were no thoughts. So knowledge of ajnanam is there. So it's called ajnana vishaya prakasha, light or understanding that I didn't know anything. And the next one is, second piece of knowledge is ananda vishaya prakasha. Because when you wake up, you say that I slept well. I was very comfortable. So ananda is there also. So in that sushupti, you have no other knowledge at all. When you are in your karma shariram, you have no knowledge at all, excepting two pieces of knowledge. And this is very important to understand that in sushupti avastha, it is not blankness. You have two pieces of knowledge. One is that you don't know anything. So knowledge of ajnanam is there. And other is that knowledge of ananda is there. Because you are able to say, I slept well. And that is why we say prayena ajnaha is prajnaha. The one who is prayena, almost totally ignorant, excepting for the two pieces of knowledge. Knowledge of ajnanam and knowledge of ananda. Because only these two pieces of knowledge are there, he is almost totally ignorant. The entire universe is not known to him. And he says, asya prajnatvam, this prajna, aspashtha upaditaya. Aspashtha means not clear, dull. Because vyashti ajnanam is a dull reflecting medium. Upadi is the reflecting medium. Aspashtaha, the vyashti ajnanam is a dull reflecting medium. Why? We just discussed. Why is it a dull reflecting medium?
Because it is Malina Sattva.
Because it is Malina Sattva. Sattva guna is contaminated by Rajas and Tamas. Sattva guna by itself is a very clear reflecting medium. But here it is Aspashta Ubaditaya. It's a dull reflecting medium because of contamination by Rajas and Tamas. And because it is Malina Sattva only. And therefore, He says, because the RM is dull, so aspashta upatidaya is a description of the dull RM. And therefore, anati prakashakatvat. Okay. So ati prakasha means light or bright. Ati prakasha means very bright. Anati prakasha means not very bright or dull. So that word you should understand properly. Prakasha, bright. Ati prakasha, very, very bright. Anati prakasha, not very bright, and therefore to be taken as dull. Anati prakasham is dullness. And that malina sattva gunam, the RM, is a dull consciousness. The RM is dull, aspashta upadhi, and therefore the RC is anati prakasha. RC is also dull. Carefully here, you should not say OC is dull. It is only the RC which is dull. The sunlight is never not bright, but the reflection in a dirty mirror is not bright. Here, the mirror is the Sattvaguna, Malina Sattvaguna. Therefore, the RC is also Anati Prakashaha. And hence, only two things are there, Ajnana Vishayaha and Ananda Vishayaha. Similarly, now you will say that in the next sloka we will say, just like all, we have different names for Samashti Ajnanam and Samashti Aram also. Here also we will have different names for Vyashti.
Acharya ji, you use the term Prakasha along with Ajnana Vishaya. Why? You said it has two pieces, Ajnana Vishaya Prakasha and Ananda Vishaya Prakasha. So
those are the two pieces of knowledge that you have, that we discussed slightly earlier. There are only, why is it called Prajnaha, Prayena Ajnaha? Because there are only two pieces of knowledge. Ajnana Vishaya, I don't know anything. Ananda Vishaya, I am happy. I was happy.
okay.
That is the knowledge that you have. That is why it is called Prajna. That explanation was in the context of Prajna. Here, the explanation is why the RC is not very bright. Anati Prakasha means dull. It is Anati Prakasha because aspashta upadhi. Because the RC is dull because the RM is dull. RM is dull because Sattva Guna is polluted by Rajoguna and Tamoguna.
Oh,
Yes,
Acharya,
thank you.
Yes, June.
I was wondering from the sattvic dominant ignorance of, or the sattva dominant upadhi of Easwara, how does the jiva upadhi gets contaminated with more rajas and tamas? Like,
because
how does
Ishvara is Sattva Guna
Mhm.
predominant, but Jiva is Rajoguna predominant. The very fact that you are Jiva implies that it is Malina Sattvam only.
Okay, so it's the nature of the jiva to be more sattva.
It is the nature of the
rajas.
Jiva to be Sattva Guna Malina Sattvam.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Now we look at topic number 45. Asyapiyam
Asyapiyam
Ahankaradi Karanatvat
Ahankaradikaranatvat
Karna Shariram Ananda Prachuratvat
Karana Shariram Ananda Prachuratvat
Koshavad Achadakatvat
Koshadaachadakatvat
Cha Anandamaya Koshaha
Anandamaya
Koshaha
Sarvo Paramatvat Sushuptihi
Sarve
Sarvobharamat Sushuptihi
Ata eva Sthula Sukshma Sharira
Atta eva Sthula Sukshma Sharira
Layasthanamiti cha uchyate.
Cha Uchyate.
Okay. Now you see, he's saying that Vyashti Ajnanam, like Samashti Ajnanam, has also got different names. So, Iyam Asya. So, Iyam Asya. Asya is this Vyashti Ajnanam, Iyam is this. So this Vyashti Ajnanam has got different names. Karana Shariram. It is the cause of the other two bodies. Right? It is the cause of Sukshma Shariram and Sthula Shariram. That is why Karana Shariram is called causal body. It is the cause of the other two bodies. That is to say, all Sanchita Karma is located in this causal body. And therefore it is called Karana Shariram. Vyashti Ajnanam's first name is Karana Shariram. And Ahankaradi Karanatvat. So that is the definition. What is Ahankara over here? Ahankaradi Karanatvat means being the cause of Ahankara, etc. It's one sentence. Karana Shariram, it is called the Karana Shariram because Ahankaradi Karanatvat. Because it is the Karanam for Ahankara. What is Ahankara?
For the Sukshma Sharira.
The Sukshma plus Sthula Shariram is called Ahankara also. The Vedantic Ahankara is different from the Dharma Shastra Ahankara. Dharma Shastra Ahankara is the ego, the misplaced pride, etc. That is called Ahankara. But in Vedanta Shastram, Ahankara is simply the Jiva, Sukshma and Sthula Shariram. And therefore, Karana Shariram is the cause for Sukshma Shariram and Sthula Shariram. Therefore, it is called Karana Shariram. Ahankaradi Karanam means it is the Karanam for Sukshma and Sthula. Therefore, it is called Karana Shariram. That is the first name, Karana Shariram. Then another name is given, Anandamaya Koshaha. Why Ananda? Ananda Prachuratvat. We saw this earlier. Saturated with Ananda. Why? Because in Sushupti Avastha, you get up saying, I was totally happy. I had no problems at all. So Ananda Prachuratvat. We saw this in the verse which dealt with Samashti Ajnanam also. Samashti Karma Shariram had the same wordings. Why Kosha? Same as before. Called a Kosha because it covers Achakadvat covers the Atma. It conceals the real nature of the Atma, therefore called Kosha. And Sushuptihi, again very similar to the discussion in Samashti Ajnanam. Why? Because Sarva Uparamatvat. Everything is resolved at the time of Sushupti. Now here remember, everything resolved means the Jiva's activities are all resolved. The Jiva's external and internal worlds are as if resolved. In Ishvara Sushupti, the worlds are actually resolved. But here, it is as if the Jiva's external and internal worlds are resolved. And the fourth name is also same, Layasthanam, the resolution ground. Here only there is a difference. Atha eva sthula sukshma sharira layasthanam iti uchyate. That is why it is called the layasthanam for sthula sukshma shariram. What was the difference as far as the samashti ajnanam layasthanam was concerned? There was an extra word. What was the word? Atha eva sthula sukshma prapancha layasthanam uchyate. Here it is sthula sukshma shariram. The individual sthula sukshma shariram are resolved into the individual karana shariram. While in the case of samashti ajnanam, the sthula prapancha, the sthula universe and the sukshma universe are resolved into the karana universe. Layasthanam iti uchyate. And therefore Vyashti Ajnanam is the Layasthanam for Sthula Sukshma Shariram only. While Samashti Ajnanam is Layasthanam for Sthula Sukshma Prapancha. Okay, so with this we'll stop for today. Any questions?
Acharya.
Yeah, June.
So in this verse, we mentioned that the Sanchita karma, and we can also infer the other karmas are stored in this Karana Shariram.
Yeah.
How the vasanas that are being reinforced in, with our actions, with our habits, how we define them, we cannot see them as karma. So how
That
do
is
they
why
also
that
store in the
karma shariram is the same as Maya, okay,
Mhm.
at the individual level. And when it comes to detailed explanations, Maya has a definition. Anirvachaniyam,
Mm.
not classifiable, not explainable.
Mhm.
So how it comes, that you cannot even ask, because who is there to examine the karma shariram? Maya cannot be examined.
Mhm.
And therefore, this is what we accept Shruti as saying.
Mhm.
Vedanta says this is how it is. And you say, okay, because I have no way of verifying this, I accept that all these vasanas, all these karmas, they are all, sanchita karma is lying in karma shariram, because they have to lie somewhere. No?
Mhm.
Why can it not be in sukshma shariram? Why is
Because only the prarabdha has to exist in the sukshma and sharira for this birth.
For every birth, from the karma shariram, you extract out that part of the prarabdha, of the sanchita karma, which is going to be the cause of this current birth, and therefore in sukshma shariram you will have only that.
Mhm.
The rest has to lie somewhere, no? And that lies at karma shariram.
Mm. Thank you, Acharya ji. Acharya ji, one other question?
Yeah.
Since no one is asking, so
Oh, sure. Go ahead. Go ahead.
okay. So for the karmas, we have the karma paladata that like administrates or manages the prarabdhas and all these things for each life. But in the case of the vasanas, all of our vasanas just come like that in this in this sukshma sharira, or part of the vasanas that are stored in the karana shariram.
What is the difference between karma phalam and vasana? Tell me.
That the vasana is not an action.
What is the
by
source of both?
The karana shariram.
No, the source. How is it born?
From ignorance.
No. Karma phalam is born from karma only.
From action, yes.
Right.
Vasanas from repetitive actions.
Vasana is again born from action only, but repeated action. And therefore, the source for both is karma only. The difference is in the nature. The karma phalam is relevant for the bhokta, the experiencer. The vasana influences the next karma. Therefore, even though both are karma phalam, the nature of one is to influence the karta, that is vasana. The experiencer of the karma phalam is the bhokta. That is the difference. Vasana is relevant for the karta, karma phalam is relevant for the bhokta. That's the difference between the two. But the source is the same. Karma only.
Thank you.
Okay, so with this we'll stop. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience.
Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Acharya ji.